Week 11 is here. Coaching changes, comeback stories, battle between contenders, and the updated power rankings list. All that and more next. Hello, and welcome to the Everyday Fans Podcast, where the game belongs to all of us. No experts, no suits, just fans talking sports the way we live it every day. All right, thank you guys for coming back, checking out another video on the channel here. If you're not, please check, like, subscribe, share. Trying to grow the platform. So we'll get right into it. NFL Week 11 power rankings. We'll start with headlines for this week. A lot of different things going on around the league, but we'll start in New York, where the Giants have fired head coach Brian Dable following a double-digit blown lead late in the fourth quarter to the Chicago Bears. They're 0-4 in these games where they've been up double digits. I don't know if you guys saw the Denver game a couple of weeks ago. I think they put up 30-something points in that particular game, but ultimately gave up about 21 or 19 points in that particular game. I can't remember off the top of my head, but this has been multiple weeks coming now. The Bears get it done. Shout out to the Bears. But ultimately on the Giants side of this, with a young quarterback that was playing well actually in that game, until he went out with a concussion. It'll be interesting to see how the Giants move forward with what they want to do. Offensive coordinator is now the interim head coach, Mike Kafka. The Patriots continue to roll in Tampa. This is a team that, for a lot of reasons, in my opinion, are doing a lot better. Obviously, Drake May is playing very well at the quarterback position. He is the favorite now, very small favorite over, I think Matt Stafford is right behind him, but to win the MVP. Has his team at 8-2. Granted, they haven't played the toughest schedule, but you play who's in front of you, and, you don't complain about that. The Patriots aren't setting their own schedule. You play what's in front of you. You execute. Big win on the road here in Tampa, as Tampa Bay is one of the top teams in the NFC. So good on those guys. I'll note a few things about the Patriots when we get to them in the power rankings, as I just want to keep it rolling here. Buffalo struggles in Miami. Buffalo loses to Miami 30-13. Josh Allen looked terrible. After the big game last week against the Chiefs at home, they go on the road, divisional game. These divisional games are weird. I continue to say it. Throw out the records. It doesn't matter. These teams play twice a year, every year for God knows how long. Weird things happen, and they know how to play these particular teams. The Steelers and the Ravens play coming up. As good as Baltimore, and I think Baltimore ultimately win that division. They know how to play Lamar Jackson probably better than anybody in the league, right? Because they're divisional opponents. Lions, Rams, Seahawks all dominate the competition in that late 4 o'clock window, or 3 o'clock, depending on what time zone you're in. Lions put up 40, Rams put up 40, Seahawks put up 40. So all three of these teams, as we'll look at in a little bit here, are toward the top of the league in general. And these are all three NFC teams, two of them NFC West teams. Eagles outlasted Packers last night on Monday Night Football in a defensive struggle. Not a lot to talk about in this game, but ultimately the Philadelphia Eagles finding a way to win yet another game. Some questionable calls on both sides down the line from a coaching standpoint, but the Eagles get the job done, and they keep pace with some of these teams at the top of the NFC. Last note here on the headlines, Joe Burrow, he has returned to practice, so now he has 21 days to be activated. I won't have the divisions pulled up in terms of the AFC North, but they're 3-6. Baltimore is 4-5, and the Steelers are 5-4. So that division technically is still wide open. He will have to get here pretty quickly and get start rolling before for them to have any chance. Already with 6 losses on the year, so keep an eye on that in terms of what he does. If he's healthy, if he's ready to go, that'll be one of the top offenses, like right out of the gates. But that defense is still the worst in the league. They'll have to score 30, 40 points to win games. So ultimately, I don't think they're going anywhere, but just an interesting note to know, especially for fantasy purposes, is if anybody's had him kind of tucked away on the bench, he's somebody you'll want to be activating as soon as as soon as he's good to go. So jumping over right into the power rankings, I think we have 1 through 16, and I made a mistake last week on the video I did. I had 8 teams in playoff contention. It's only 7. The top seed in each conference gets a bye. Then you have 6 teams, so 3 games, 3 AFC games, 3 NFC games on that wild card weekend. So it's only 7 teams out of each conference making the postseason. For some reason, last week I don't know, I had a mind fart, and I had put an A seed on both sides when I recapped that. So if you saw that, a mistake on my part. But getting right into this top 10 here, power rankings. Philadelphia Eagles at 1. Not a ton to say there. They're just a team that continues to know how to learn how to win games. Their 2 losses coming from one from the Giants. Again, these divisional games, it happens. Uh, I think really just seeing Jackson Dart for the first time. Scatterboo had a game. I think that may have been a game he got injured. No, maybe that was the second game they played. But Scatterboo had a pretty big game the first game they played. Jackson Dart, obviously, a guy who is mobile with his legs, but is been pretty accurate with his arm. So losing to the Giants and losing to the Denver Broncos, a team that has an incredible pass rush. It was a game they just weren't able to get Saquon Barkley going on the ground, and that's been a theme all year. He's had a couple of breakout games, but ultimately the Eagles will need to rely on Jalen Hurts' arm more this year, in my opinion, to make a deep run and win a Super Bowl again. Teams are not just going to let Saquon Barkley um, rush for 100, 200 yards any longer. The good teams. I think it's going to be a situation where he's going to have to rely on the Devontae Smith, and he has good receivers, but can he consistently get the ball down the field, get the ball in these intermediate to short areas of the field with enough time? Because that offensive line has also had a downgrade in years past, dealing with some injuries, but they just haven't played as well. Moving to number 2, the Los Angeles Rams. They have arguably the best quarterback. Him and Drake May are right at the top. So Matthew Stafford, obviously a veteran in this league for a long time. Very balanced offense. Kind of using a two-headed monster out there now. Obviously, Kyron is their top guy, but Blake Corum getting a lot more touches here the last few weeks. And they just a really balanced offense. Elite playmakers on the perimeter with Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. So really balanced offense, opportunistic defense, guys that can pressure the quarterback, Jared Verse. So Rams number 2 for me. Colts at number 3. Basically, when they lose, they have turnovers, right? Daniel Jones, multiple turnovers in both the losses. I think he had ultimately like 5 or 6 last week against the Steelers, who I don't think is a very good team. But despite how good the team is, this is still the NFL. And when you turn the ball over like the Indianapolis Colts have done in their losses, it's going to be hard to win games in the NFL. So I have the Colts at 3, Jonathan Taylor. In the MVP conversation, ultimately, I know he won't win it, but he putting on a clinic. I did a video earlier in the year when I kind of highlighted what he's doing from a fantasy standpoint. He had a couple of hiccup games where he didn't do as good, but games like this, 240 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns against the Falcons, that'll boost the numbers up big time. So the Colts at number 3, ultimately they'll go as the quarterback goes. If they can keep him clean, if he doesn't turn the ball over, and this is fumbles and interceptions. He's had fumbles in multiple games this year already. Fumbles lost, so that's something to keep an eye on. I think the Colts have been really good. I've had him at the top for most of the year, so definitely a team that I think can make a run in the AFC. As I think the AFC is wide open, as we'll get to as we keep going down this list here. So at number 4, Seattle Seahawks. The thing that worries me about them, middle of the pack run game. So the last two games they've been a lot better on the ground, but these are blowout wins. Can they get the tough physical yards? Can they run for a good average against better teams? They got the Rams this week at LA, 7-2 versus 7-2. Um, Maybe the best game of the week. It just depends on how you look at some of these things, but this would definitely be a great game. If this is a game they win, I think they have to run the ball efficiently, meaning averaging at least four yards a carry or higher. I don't think you could average three or lower, which is what they were doing in some of these games early in the season, and beat a team like the Rams. You want to stay balanced and be able to extend drives against this type of team because with Matthew Stafford, with Puka Nacua, with Devontae Adams, even if they're playing from behind, um, they're going to be in games, right? And this defensive front that the Rams have is pretty strong, as well as the Seahawks. Seahawks has top five defense, in my opinion, in the NFL. So this will be a very interesting game this week because, one, not only would it be for the lead in the NFC West, the Eagles have a tough game this week at home against Detroit. And we'll get into all of those later, but to keep pace with some of these top teams, I think the top seed this particular year might be a little more important because of a few different things. A team like Philly going out to the East Coast in that weather, um, and the Eagles fan, it's a hostile environment. So I think teams like the Seahawks, like the Rams, will want to keep pace to host games in the postseason and not have things go through Philadelphia. The New England Patriots. So this team, this team is 8-2. Nobody saw this coming. I did a video earlier in the year talking about could this be last year's Washington Commanders team, right? What do I mean by that? First, a lot of similarities, but basically what it boils down to, and another team that further down on this list has a similar setup, not exactly the same, but you have a first-year head coach, not first year, first year in this system back with this team. Mike Vrabel was a former New England Patriot, former Tennessee Titans head coach. I think he was there for 3 years. Has had success. Went to the NFC Championship. Has had some success as a head coach, right? So New England brings him in after having the former coach. I can't think of his name. They fire him after a year. He was a former New England Patriot as well. But they bring in Vrabel. They bring Josh McDaniels back, who was an offensive coordinator for the New England Patriots during their, some of their Super Bowl runs there when they had some of their more elite offenses. And Josh McDaniels has been a head coach in at least two different stops, right? Denver and Las Vegas. Now, you also had Doug Marrone, who was a former head coach. I believe he was with the Buffalo Bills some years back. He's an offensive line coach. The things that are working well for New England on the offense is first and foremost led by that offensive line. They're giving Drake May time to push the ball down the field. They're creating space for these running backs. Travion Henderson had his best game of the season last week. I think about 140 yards on the ground, but that space is being created because of his offensive line. I don't know what he's doing, what they've done, but when you add veteran coaches to a team, guys that have head coaching experience and they can swallow the pill and they're able to just, kind of do their job and not worry about the rest of the team. And that's what some of these coaches are. Every coach is not going to be a head coach. But ultimately, my point with the New England Patriots is they got a lot of experience in that coaching staff. And obviously the Josh McDaniels and Drake May connection is working because this offense is playing well. I don't care about the schedule, who they played. They just went to Tampa. They won. They went up to Buffalo. They won. This team is a top 5 team, in my opinion, in the NFL right now. And right now I don't see really a reason that they should not be in the postseason and maybe even win this division because Buffalo losing to Miami, they're not making up any ground, right? And these two teams will play again, but it will be in New England. So probably a leg up for the Patriots on that, especially if they can stay hot and stay healthy. Number 6, the Detroit Lions took care of business in Washington. Looks like Dan Campbell took over the play calling duties there, so that'll be interesting to see moving forward. And the way he was dialing it up, that's scary as a another team in the NFC North. Um, Seeing that, obviously Ben Johnson meant a lot to that team, but they still have the personnel. They still had the knowledge. Dan Campbell's a really good coach. And apparently he could call plays too because, I mean, maybe Washington was just that bad. I don't know. We'll see moving forward because, again, they have a huge game at Philly this particular week. If Detroit can beat Philly, they'll have the head to head against them. Ultimately, both teams would be 7-3. So that's a game Philly will want to win. That's a game Detroit will want to win because that head to head will matter late in the season. But Detroit offensively look great. The regular season doesn't matter to them, no. Now, obviously, they still want to win the division and obviously be as high a seed as possible. Every team should want every game played at home. It just gives you the best chance to win because the crowd, the travel, you don't have to worry about any of that. But for some teams, it may not be as good. They may want the pressure of not playing at home. So this particular team, the Detroit Lions, they want to play at home. They want everything running through Detroit. But to keep pace, they will have to beat the Eagles this week on the road. Tampa Bay at 7. This is a team I just think they win in the NFC North. They should kind of coast into the playoffs, barring any major injuries. I don't think they're super elite in the NFC, but I think they can play with anybody, right? Um, Still dealing with a lot of injuries. They should get a lot of those guys back before the end of the season. But Tampa Bay won't be a place where teams want to go play in that initial wild card round of the playoffs. I don't see them being a team that ultimately will get a bye. Um, but they should win the NFC South. And I think with just the balance of their roster, veteran quarterback with a nice mix of young offensive talent, they're a team that, can make some noise. Los Angeles Chargers. Oh, so these next like four teams are just really kind of like take your pick, right? The Chargers won the head to head against the Broncos. That's why I have them slightly ahead. And I'll kind of talk about both of those together. So the Chargers, to me, better. I like the head coach better in LA. I like the quarterback better. The defense is not as good, but um, I think it's a good defense in LA. They'll give up some points, they'll give up some plays. The pass rush is not as good. The Denver Broncos are just on a whole nother level in terms of that. But when you win a head to head, they're 3-0 in the division. I have to give them the leg up on teams like Denver. The Chiefs, I believe, are 11, but we'll get to them in a minute. 11 or 12. But uh, the Chargers at 8, I have them there mainly because I like the setup better in terms of Sean Pay's a good head coach, but give me Jim Harbaugh, give me Justin Herbert, and give me that defense over Denver. As Denver has a big one coming up here this particular week against Kansas City. This offense has not looked good. Number one defense in the league, can pressure the quarterback better than anybody in the league, and it's not even close. But ultimately, you got to be able to score points. There's been too many games this particular year where they just they're just not getting it done, and they're in my top 10 because they are 8-2. And I don't want to disrespect how well they've played. But ultimately, in some of these other games, I think we'll start to really see who they are. And that starts this week with Kansas City going to Denver. 10 points is not going to cut it. Um, Having to come back from 20 down against the New York Giants at home. Um, it's just been a lot of different type of things that I just don't trust the Broncos. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to. Number 10, the Buffalo Bills. Again, what are they doing? Losing to Miami, but I get it. Divisional game. It's just a game you can't lose, though, when you've already lost to the New England Patriots at home and a couple other games. I believe they lost to Carolina. They lost another game. They lost to Atlanta. They lost to Atlanta on the road. So some games they probably should have won to just kind of cement themselves at the top of the AFC. They just haven't won. So that's why I have them lower down here at 10. Ultimately, if they get hot, they only have 3 losses. Some of these other teams at the top, the Colts have some tough games coming up. Buffalo does have another head-to-head against New England. So they could still get to the number one seed. It's not one of those situations where I think, they've slid because of the type of losses they had, but they have the opportunity to be back in the top five if they take care of business in some of these head to heads. Going to number 11, the Green Bay Packers. Very talented team. A lot of injuries on now, and I think that's may get exposed here. It's going to be hard to say what they're going to do. Um, I think some coaching missteps, if you will. That's just my opinion. I think LaFleur has made some calls that he's too conservative at times for me um, in some situations, right? And with some of these injuries, I'm not sure he even knows who he can trust on that offense. With Tucker Craft being down, one of their top weapons, they obviously were down some receivers last night. Matthew Golden, Romeo Dobbs. So things get a little more difficult when you're down some of your top playmakers. And ultimately, I think their defense is still good. But this is a team that wants to run the ball first and foremost. But when you don't have your weapons and teams know you want to run, um, it's hard to just get your offense going like you wanted to. Philadelphia just pretty much looked like they knew everything Green Bay wanted to do, didn't allow any of it, and ultimately escaped with the win that last night. Green Bay is a team that can shoot back up in the top 10 very easily. Again, the move from 11 to probably even where Tampa Bay is, I think at 7, is very minuscule. So right, so when you see these rankings, um, it's not like I think Green Bay is so much worse than Tampa Bay. No, these are just numbers and just how they performed in the eye test. Um, and not even so much where I think things are going, just basically what I've seen to this point in the season. Just like the number 12, the Kansas City Chiefs. I think this is a team that can obviously win a Super Bowl, but they're 5-4. They started the season slow. They lose to Buffalo last week. It didn't look very good offensively after how they had been going, right? So um, all of these teams, every team is very beatable in this league, if you haven't noticed. And when we get down to it, it's going to be the teams that ultimately are hot at the right times, are getting everything going at the right times, and not peaking in October, um, September, October, and November, but peaking in December and January. The Chiefs have plenty of time to get it going. They won't be a top seed, um, and that's one thing that I think ultimately can hurt them. I'm not saying it will, but for a lot of years, everything's kind of run through Arrowhead. This particular year, I just don't see it unless we just teams just start beating up on each other, and teams lose some games that that they quote unquote shouldn't lose. Um, I don't see Kansas City being a team, but no real reason why they shouldn't make the playoffs. If they started today, they would not be in. But this is not a situation as where um, the playoffs start today. We have, 8 more weeks to go, and I think they'll round into form. And San Francisco 49ers has done a great job with injuries in terms of just kind of staying afloat. Another team, again, if the playoffs started today, they wouldn't be in at 6-4. Um, the Bears have one less loss than them. The Bears already having a bye. I think San Francisco will be going on a bye here within the next couple of weeks. Um, but a team that's just being gritty. Excuse me. They're gutting it out. Ultimately, some may ask, yes, I'm a Bears fan. Why do you have them ranked over the Bears? I think ultimately the Bears have some more to prove to me. I like that they're winning games, but we'll get to them in a minute. Baltimore at 14, they beat the Bears head to head, and they're on a 3-game winning streak. Getting healthy at the right time of year. A lot of season left. Division is wide open. Pittsburgh is 5-4. They're one game behind them, and they haven't even played head to head yet. They have 2 games being played head to head. Baltimore wins both of those games. They have firm control of this division. Only other thing to watch is obviously I talked about Joe Burrow earlier in the video, possibly coming back. If he's back, like not this particular week because it won't happen this week, but if he's back as early as next week and they just run the table, something crazy like that happens, obviously they could probably threaten for the division too. I just don't see that happening. So Baltimore, I have them over the Bears at 14 because they did win that head-to-head without Lamar. Number 15, so my team, the Chicago Bears, 6-3 in the playoffs right now. If the playoffs were to start, um, but here we go now. Now the next 4 to 6 weeks is where they can skyrocket over some of these teams. They got two head-to-heads against Green Bay coming up. They have the Minnesota Vikings this particular week, which they are underdogs in, ahead according to the Vegas line. But I'm not going to put a team up like this, a team that's playing well, a team that has turned a lot of things around. And going back to that point, like I talked about earlier with the New England Patriots, you have a first year head coach here. But the reason they've been able to turn some of these things around is some of the veteran coaches in that locker room. Defensive coordinator, former head coach for the New Orleans Saints, former head coach for the Las Vegas Raiders. So Dennis Allen, he's had head coaching experience, so Ben Johnson can lean on him certain game situations, throughout the week. What does this look like? Eric Bieniemy in that running backs room. At one point was in discussion to become a head coach in this league. Hasn't got his opportunity. Had some opportunities at the college level. Was in KC for some of their Super Bowl, championship seasons, and a host of other guys and experience throughout this locker room. So you mix that with a nice mix of young talent and veteran talent, a head coach that has buy-in from every level of the team, offense, defense, special teams. You find success and you learn how to win games because you're relying on each other and you're believing in one another. And despite what the scoreboard says, this team has been able to win some games late. It's not something that I think is sustainable, but ultimately they're 6-3 with an opportunity to get another win this week against a divisional opponent. A game that I think ultimately, if they want to get to the postseason, I think this is one of the games you got to win. They got you at home. You were up in that game. This is a game where you have to go to their place, take some of that momentum from these last couple of weeks, and get off to a faster start than you have been getting off to, and ultimately win that game. Number 16 and the last team in the power rankings here, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think this team is very good. The Bears have them in 2 weeks. So, again, an opportunity for Chicago to get some wins against some teams that aren't necessarily in my particular top 14. Pittsburgh, to me, is at 16. Minnesota, we're not even going past 16 because none of those teams right now have great prospect for the playoffs. Now, there's a few teams out there, the Houston Texans, maybe the Jaguars. And actually, Minnesota could technically turn it around. And that would start with getting a win over the Bears. But, I wanted to have a cutoff point. I just kind of want to highlight teams that, are in the mix basically right now for the playoffs. If I had a different graphic, we would have some other teams on it because we would do it by conference. But ultimately, this is just how I'm seeing the board. If you see things differently, let me know down in the comments. Let me know what you like or dislike. But what I try not to just be so biased when it comes to kind of ranking these teams, whether it's mine, whether it's some other ones. If a team's good, a team's good. Team looks bad, team looks bad. If a team is skating by, a team is skating by. And the Bears, to a certain extent, has been skating by. They're finding ways to win games. Nothing to apologize about that right now. And I'm very excited, for the prospect of what this team could do the next month with having that type of experience. But a lot of season left for all of these teams. Things can change very drastically for a lot of different teams. Moving to next week in terms of games, a highlight, we'll just touch base on these. I'll do another video kind of diving into these games a little more, but games to just keep an eye on. In that early window, Tampa Bay is traveling to Buffalo. Buffalo minus 5.5 point favorite. Kansas City traveling to Denver. Kansas City is a road favorite of 3.5. So the books aren't very high on Denver winning that particular game. Seattle at the Rams, probably the best game of the day to me. Well, maybe one or two. You could do that one, or you could do the one right below it, Detroit at Philadelphia, -1.5. So those are the two games I'll really be watching. Obviously, they're both NFC. All four of those are NFC teams, and the win loss have playoff implications. So thank you guys for your time. I'll have some more videos coming out before the end of the week. But that's all I got for you today. Week 11 Power Rankings video. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.